The fascists are coming! The fascists are coming! Howdy, howdy, and welcome to another wonderful trash take. Today, we're going to be talking about how fascism is on the rise in America. Actually, no, it's not. Trump just ruled them to be a fucking terrorist organization. Rest in peace, you won't be missed, retards. Now, before we dive into this, I want to make this clear. There's a lot of people being purposely obtuse when they say fascism isn't an organization, it's an idea. No, there are plenty of organizations that are calling themselves Antifa, anti-fascist, and the point of that is because they are organizing. And what they're finding now is that there's a lot of money coming from foreign powers to these anti-fascist groups in America, paying for them to basically go from protest to protest, paying for them to be violent, paying for their bail when they do get violent, and putting them right back out on the streets so they can show up to another protest. So Trump has officially declared Antifa in America to be a terrorist organization. So sorry for everyone out there who celebrates Antifa. This is something that should have been coming for a long time. Ever since 2020, Trump originally talked about making Antifa a terrorist organization, but that never happened. Then he lost an election, and now he's back in power. And now there's a bunch of radical people out there openly celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. You have Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled for promoting basic propaganda on news airwaves, which is against FCC rules. And I know people are getting upset saying freedom of speech is dead. It's like, no, they canceled Fallon because Disney, the people who own the news network that was platforming Fallon, probably don't want to get absolutely annihilated by the American government for violating FCC rules. In an interview with the Benny Show and another video I showed, it talked about how Jimmy Fallon was, what he said and why was it egregious. Yes, it's harsh. Yes, he's making jokes at the president. Yes, he is belittling and dehumanizing Charlie Kirk. But the issue with it is the blatant propaganda of him trying to imply the shooter's clearly MAGA and MAGA's not taking responsibility. When at the point in time when Jimmy Fallon aired that episode, it was already known that the shooter had a trans furry boyfriend. It was, I don't really know about any MAGA people with trans furry boyfriends. If you guys know any, let me know. That's kind of, it's like a unicorn, I guess. I don't really know. And the reason why is because there's gender ideology and it kind of divides along political lines with a few people that are trans on the right and a lot more people. I'd say 99.999% of people that identify trans are leftists by a long shot. But I digress. Today we're talking about fascism. This is the tweet from Donald Trump basically announcing that Antifa is now a terrorist organization. I am pleased to inform many of the USA patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Good. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And that's how it should be. They should be brought in front of a court of law and shown to have evidence that directly shows they're in violation of like RICO charges and racketeering and using foreign power and foreign money to influence current elections via political intimidation, which is what Antifa currently practices in, and they heavily believe in it. Antifa employs Gestapo tactics, which is forms of political intimidation and political violence against those they view as fascists. Now, the issue with those they view as fascists is literally everyone. Here's a quote from the anonymous Twitter account, which is verified. Not really anonymous. I think you got to verify your fucking driver's license or some shit to be verified on Twitter, but I don't remember. Anyways, we're Antifa. We are 10,000% anti-fascist. We deplore fascism. It seems like such a bad thing to be anti-fascist under a fascist. They're admitting they're fascist. Antifa is a group. It's a defense mechanism. It only exists because fascism exists. And yet again, I want to echo the point home. Anyone that they don't like, they call a fascist. If you want borders to stop the drug cartels from bringing in infinite drugs, child trafficking, and weapons into the country, fascist. If you want to deport a legal immigrant that got a DUI and killed 2 Americans afterwards, you're a fascist. If you want to put criminals in jail so they can't stab a girl on a subway train, you're a fascist. It's a word that's thrown around and lost a lot of its political meaning and its actual meaning. It still has context to it. The reason they call everyone a fascist is to dehumanize them, to encourage political violence against them. They are calling you a target. That is the point. That is the purpose. They want you silenced, and they're being and they are trying to politically intimidate you into silence, which is what the actual fascists during World War II did. But I digress. Irony's lost on people with 40 IQ, and these individuals are probably below that. But you have a really good tweet from Nux that summarizes it pretty well. If you don't know Nux, he's a YouTuber. He's a pretty popular YouTuber, in fact. But he is a VTuber avatar and goes over political commentary and funny shit and gaming shit in general. It's a lot of my hemisphere, so I've been seeing a bunch of his Twitter accounts, and this was an absolute banger from him. And it's exactly what I'm echoing here. Hey guys, I'm thinking of starting a new movement called Kill the Hitlers, where we go out and kill Hitlers. Anyone that I don't like is considered a Hitler. Anyone that I disagree with is considered a Hitler. What do you mean this is terrorism? I guess that makes you Hitler. And that's entirely right. That's what these people do. They don't really have a basis for calling anyone a fascist, Nazi, or Hitler. They just find some arbitrary reason of, you want the government to put criminals in jail? Fascist. It's retarded. You're not having a conversation with adults. You're dealing with full-grown toddlers that have been spoiled their entire lives and never had to actually think about what their words mean. And so there's another part from down. There's another reply down here from Kirsch, basically saying calling you a Nazi, Hitler, fascist is not actually what they believe. It's just they're making you an acceptable target for violence. 200% true. That is what they're doing. It's been their game plan for quite some time, and it's showing that it works because that's what they did to Kirk. And you got some crazy guy that actually thought Kirk was a hateful individual, and the only way to get rid of hate is to kill him. FBI put his text messages for the Kirk assassin online. You can go look at them. I don't want to sound like a schizo, but they're weird, I'd say. It's a unique way of talking to someone. People are thinking that the FBI faked the text messages. I don't know. Kash Patel doesn't really build confidence in me. And if it turns out that he faked the evidence like they did with the evidence of Jeffrey Epstein hanging himself, where there was a whole minute missing from the video and then also was edited. Yeah, there could be a conspiracy here. I'm not going to focus on that. But I also want to reply to Nuck, or I also want to comment on what Nux replied with there. Marketing 101. Call them a Nazi. Hope someone murders them, celebrate the murder. Both sides should condemn violence. And that is what has been happening. This is what leftists have been doing. They're scared of retaliation against them because they've been openly cheering. So now after they've got a kill on someone who is a moderate leaning right, they're telling everyone, let's bring down the political violence, guys, because it's at an all-time high. And I'm not encouraging political violence, but these people are doing it intentionally. The same people that have tons of videos of them calling for, we need to fight them in the streets, we need to punch them in the face, they need to not be able to go to a restaurant without being fear of being assaulted. Their protests aren't meant to be peaceful. I believe that one was Nancy Pelosi. These same people are now saying, guys, let's turn down the political rhetoric, guys. Let's bring it down a notch. It's them that have it's just them trying to backpedal to not make themselves seem like bad guys. Anyone with a brain should be able to see it's a blatant facade. It's fake. They want violence. That's what they've always wanted. But you also have people like the Krasenstein twins who also jumped on the 8647 bandwagon, got a visit from the FBI for it, that are now saying, I am Antifa, because Trump is designating the Antifa organization as a terrorist organization. And these people are taking it as literally anyone that says they're Antifa is now a terrorist. By the way, the Krasenstein twins is one of the political leftists, political Democrat, they're not really leftist, but they're really far left on the Democrat scale. They're professional retards, basically, is what I consider them. And they basically come out saying, meaning I am against fascism. All Americans should be. Antifa is not an organization. Domestic groups cannot be formally designated as terrorist organizations under U.S. law. Trump did not have the legal authority to unilaterally designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. No federal statute allows the president to make the designation domestically. Because he wants to be completely obtuse here and say Antifa isn't an organization when there is an international Antifa organization that operates out of multiple countries, not just America, and they do have operations in America, he's ignoring that fact entirely and acting like anyone saying they're Antifa now should go to jail forever. If that's Trump's intention, it's yet to be seen. I'm giving Trump a good faith argument, meaning he's going after this organization that's international, that shows up to violently protest everywhere in the world and goes unchecked. I want them investigated to make sure that it's not foreign money from other countries paying for these people to commit violence here, and they can pay for their bond to put them back on the street to commit more violence, which I believe they are doing. And there is evidence to show the Canadian government, I believe. It was a video from Legal Mindset. If you want to look up Legal Mindset, go for it. I'm not going to play it here, but Legal Mindset showed court documents that some of the Antifa Discord groups were actually being funded directly by the Canadian government to and in those Discord groups, they were making lists of acceptable political targets. And Charlie Kirk was one of those targets, is what they were finding. People are saying this is coming from the FBI and their investigation on Tyler Robertson's and the Discord groups he was in. Not quite sure about the connection, but Legal Mindset is a pretty good video on it if you want to see more. And that's my biggest issue here. There are foreign powers abroad that want to see America fall, and they can't do it really without putting themselves at risk. So instead they find useful idiots to pay for to allow them to go commit acts of violence on their behalf, who will then go to jail for the rest of their life, and then they find another useful idiot to keep paying for it. And I want that to stop. And that's why Trump has expanded the RICO charges. RICO in America basically is just supposed to stop foreign powers and stop organized crime, if you will. What they're finding is a bunch of protesters are being put in jail or showing up to protest in one state and then are showing up to protest in another state and then showing up to protest in another state back to back to back. And they don't have jobs because they're a bunch of leftists who have so much social anxiety that they can't even be a barista at Starbucks anymore. So how are they getting from point A to point B so successfully? People paying for them. That's the logical answer here. What the IRS needs to do is find the Antifa retards in America that are open with it, and there's Twitter accounts, and there's organizations in Portland, and it's very obvious of who these people are. And I'm not just saying someone who claims they're Antifa, someone who's in an organized network of this off-branch Antifa. Look into them and see where their finances are coming from. See who's paying for them to get from point A to point B. The IRS should be very easily able to track these people in coordination with the FBI. Basically, we have a surveillance state already thanks to the Patriot Act, so I don't see why they can't do that already. Maybe they need a little more reasoning too, besides just personally diving into these people's lives. As far as I know, the CIA or FBI already can do that. Don't even think they need a fucking search warrant to pull messages off your phone, but really, schizo me. Anyways, the point of this being is there is organized crime in America that's going unchecked, and now RICO charges are expanding to take these protesters that are being paid to protest that are then turning violent to get them out of America. If you remember the January 6th insurrection that resulted in one person dead, there was a lot of talk about there being FBI agents in the crowd and Antifa members in the crowd dressed like MAGA trying to encourage violence. There's recorded footage of multiple people breaking windows and then running away. People are assuming these are the Antifa people trying to encourage violence. Or if those people brought up on charges, no one knows, because basically what the government did was saying it's such a terroristic threat to democracy that everyone who is supposedly terrorists got trespassing charges opposed to terrorism charges. Really makes you itch your noggin here, because the government can't actually prove that they're terrorists, because it wasn't terrorism. It was going into a public space when you weren't supposed to, basically. The best they could do was charge them with trespassing. And let's be honest, if you thought it'd be a good idea to show up there when the politics were at an all-time high and leftists still had complete control of the media, Twitter, and everywhere else, then that's a bad idea, to be quite fucking frank. Of course, they were going to always hold you to the maximum extent of the law that they could and abuse your civil rights, and they absolutely did, which is why Trump pardoned the vast majority of them. A lot of them were sitting in jail cells that were subhuman conditions. A lot of the January 6th protesters killed themselves in prison because of how badly they were being treated. I'm not saying everyone there is innocent, but I'm saying they put a lot of innocent people in jail and didn't give a fuck if ever trying to separate them and violated their due rights. That is the only reason I'm making this tangent here. But I digress. I want the political violence to stop in America, and I think if we're taking out a group that calls everyone who disagrees with them a fascist and will openly cheer when a moderate is murdered, I think that'd be a really good place to see maybe how these individuals are, or at least give them a wellness check to make sure they're not too mentally unhinged. Just circle back to the foreign powers influencing current action. We can look at billionaires like George Soros. I don't really consider him a foreign power, but he is influencing elections in America. He buys DAs across the board. He helps pay for their campaigns and helps get them elected in positions of power, and then they don't enforce the law like they should, or they enforce the law how they want to. My direct example for this is, I believe it was Austin, Texas. There was a protest in Austin, Texas. It was either Austin or Houston. There was a protest in Texas where basically a bunch of protesters were walking through the streets and they surrounded some guy's car, and the dude pointed a fucking Draco, an AK, at the guy sitting in the car. Dude in the car saw the gun, pulled a pistol, and fucking shot him. It's Texas. Welcome to Texas, you fucking retard. And rightfully so. Castle law in Texas is very specific. If you feel the urge of threat and a gun is threatening, you can defend yourself and your property. And I believe castle law even extends to cars now, too. It's your property. Makes sense. Anyways, the leftist DA was trying to charge the guy with murder, basically, for defending himself in blatant violation of Texas laws, was still trying to bring him up and drag him through the dirt and basically make him go to court for this, which was very cut and clear case of self-defense. And it ended with Greg Abbott actually stepping in and giving the guy a pardon. But I want to be very clear. This isn't just like he might have pointed the gun at him. No, this was all on video evidence, just like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, where Kyle Rittenhouse, the whole incident was on video evidence. You saw multiple people trying to brutally kill him, and Kyle shot them in self-defense. Even the dude who pointed the gun at Kyle was ruled self-defense. Kyle has no charges pressed against him. They were all dropped, but they still put him in jail and tried to give him a pony show and try to act like he was the worst person on earth, when it was very clear self-defense from the get-go. All of the footage was readily available online. And the guy that Kyle Rittenhouse shot was never, ever had charges pressed against him. Riddle me this, Batman. How does a kid who's found innocent and basically ruled have self-defense of people trying to brutally murder him, and one of the people that tried to brutally murder him didn't have charges pressed against him? Because it was a leftist DA. And this is my issue, and I'm really hoping RICO can start grabbing some of these retards who've been elected in positions of power and are absolutely not doing their job and have been foreignly elected, and getting them removed. I really want this fixed in America, because I believe the issue with America being soft on crime, it's kind of misleading. It's not that all of America is soft on crime. It's these people that have been elected by foreign powers who are purposely being soft on crime to terrorize neighborhoods, to make them hate this country, to make them revolutionaries, to call everyone a fascist. Just a little bit of a schizo, but that's my rant for the day. Do you believe Trump's going in the right direction? I want to see how it's fully implemented first. I'm not going to jump the gun and assume everyone that calls himself Antifa is going to jail. I know Hassan Piker's already piped up saying this isn't a real thing. You can't do this, because Hassan's also called himself an anti-fascist plenty of times. He's got T-shirts of it. I don't think you'll go to jail if you have a T-shirt that says Antifa on it. I don't think you'll go to jail if you have a T-shirt that has a swastika on it. We don't really have hate speech crime laws in America. I know people are trying to get them here. They don't need to be here. You should be able to wear a T-shirt that says Antifa, just like you should be able to wear a T-shirt that says swastika. And there should be the same political judgment from people that are normal saying, that's pretty fucked up, bro. Same with Antifa. That's pretty fucked up, bro. And the issue is they want to be social justice warriors, and they're trying to find a war that doesn't exist, so they're making political and military targets out of regular people. And that's my issue with this. Antifa right now in America has been terrorizing normal people with Gestapo tactics, and it needs to fucking end. Somehow we've come so far to where the anti-fascists are now the fascists, and everything they disagree with is fascist, and you're widowy Hitler, and I'm going to disagree with you, and now I want you dead. But I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to call you every basically derogatory term I can that isn't directly a slur and against TOS to mark you as a political target for some radical extremist to come kill you. But yeah, if you guys like the video, feel free to like it, comment down below, or subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. I'm always curious to hear what people say. I do like differing opinions. I know I'm going to have some radical retards almost every time. I'm okay with it, honestly. As long as I can tell that someone's having a good faith conversation and not trying to be crazy about it, let me know. If you truly think you're fighting the good fight and the fascists are so broadly in America, then I really want to know your perspective. How do you live your life on the daily? I feel like that's a world where I'd be in such terror to even step outside that I would probably never step outside. It's a unique perspective, but there's a lot of unique people in this world. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, later.